Hi everyone, welcome back to the Earthdawn Survival Guide, a podcast for novices and masters alike. We are 31 episodes deep. I am Dan, my co-host is of course Josh.
Hello everybody.
And on today's podcast, we will be discussing all things larcenical, because we are going to bring up Thieves.
That's not a word.
Most of the things I make up are not words, but that's okay.
I am a writer. That is not a word.
It involves larceny.
Larcenous is a word, but it doesn't fit your thing. So
no, it's my thing. It's my horror taint. I have to go along with that. So I'm kidding.
Shakespeare, you are not.
Oh, clearly not.
I mean, you're not a bad writer. You're not a bad writer. We did pay you to write stuff, but
I wrote a couple things. I wrote one story that hasn't been published. It's my best writing ever, but that's later on. And Kagorsi would like it. It's about orcs. Anyway, but we're going to talk about Thieves today. In fact, the thief discipline. We're going to break that one down here in a minute. But if you have any questions for us, feel free to email us at edsgpodcast@gmail.com.
Yes.
So, other than that, let's get to Before
we get to that, actually,
Please.
Two really quick things that I want to get to.
Cool.
If you are, for some reason, starved for Earthdawn content,
holy crap, how can you be starved?
There are two podcasts, actual play podcasts, that have recently launched that I want to give a shout out to.
Yeah.
One of them is called the Name Givers Podcast, and the other one is, oh no, I don't remember the name of it now. Circle of Dawn. Circle of Dawn is the other one. They actually stream as well as release, I think, on YouTube. But they do streaming on Twitch and then I think make the videos available. But those are both. I have not really watched or listened to either of them.
I have not researched them as well. But I did at least see that they launched Circle of Dawn and they had a video on there. And I did check out, because so far the Name Givers podcast only has about 6 episodes out, but they're up to about 5.5 hours of content. So if you're still self-quarantining, by all means, you got some stuff to check out.
And the Legends of Earthdawn podcast, after kind of a spotty, infrequent release thing, has started releasing episodes more frequently again.
Well, I can't deny the post-production is the longer part of the process of a podcast. Yeah. I stitch just your audio and my audio together with some music, and that takes a while. I cannot imagine doing it with 6 other voice tracks and stuff, so I don't blame anybody for taking your time to get that one right.
And also, by the time this drops, you will have the Iopos Sourcebook has officially dropped and is available in PDF at facetgames.com. So if you were not a Kickstarter backer for some reason, you've missed out on that. It is available for you to go and spend your money on now. I think that we also have also available through the shop pre-orders for physical copies as well as the bundle if you want to get both the physical and the PDF, which allows you to get the PDF right away, and we'll ship you the physical copies when they come back. The files have gone off to the printer. And hopefully we're going to see a much quicker turnaround on that than we did with Mystic Paths, which took a little bit longer to deliver than anticipated. So those are all available, all things that are going on, and I wanted to make that aware.
So pause your podcast now, go order the book, come back and listen.
Or just continue listening to this if you are in a safe position. Continue listening to this as you switch over to another tab on your browser.
No, you multitask poorly. Just stop. Go do that. 3, 2, 1, and welcome back. So we have you now. Okay, you ready to break down Thieves?
Thieves.
I play a dwarf thief in Classic Edition that I love his name, and B, I love the fact that I get to make him my own type of little thief, and he's a dwarf. So I have a dwarf thief named Asanon Oro, or Bringer of Gold.
Ooh.
And I get to call him Ace for short. So that's just me. But that's my favorite. I finally got to play a thief that I wanted to play. So anyway, on to Thieves. As according to the book, and the preamble and the karma ritual, again, didn't change much. The important attributes didn't change much from any edition. But I love how Thieves learn early to be self-reliant, and that is part of their karma ritual.
Yes.
That they actually have to think about just themselves, that they can't really rely on anybody else. They have to be their own resources. And when they actually use any discipline talent, their karma ritual ends. And so it's whatever talent they feel fits them at the moment, or when they want to make sure it isn't rusty or be useful. But that's just one of those things I like about Thieves is...
Yeah. Thieves occupy a potentially difficult space in fantasy gaming. They are kind of archetypal. We're going back to the roots of the RPG space.
Yeah.
Although the thief was not actually I don't think was one of the original classes in the original like white box Dungeons and Dragons game. I think it was introduced in one of the very early supplements, but I could be wrong about that.
No,
I am not 100% certain of that early history.
You are correct. I just read somebody's biographical essay about their involvement with D&D, and they listed out exactly what came out when, and a thief came out much, much later than the original box set. So
yeah.
According to him, I don't know.
Yeah. So, but I mean, it was still something that was very early, inspired in a little bit on characters like the Grey Mouser, from the Fafford and Grey Mouser, the Lankmar setting, from the sort of the 60s or 70s from Fritz Lieber, I think was the author who did those. Anyway, but the like self-reliance and the larcenous nature of the thief as an archetype, and the horror stories that frequently come about of thieves that steal from their fellow party members and things like that.
Yes.
And then sort of carried forward into other not well looked upon things, like, say, the Kender thieves from Dragonlance.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you go too far onto the self-reliance route, you kind of start to ask yourself, well, why would they be working with the rest of the party? Like, what kind of justification? And there is, some potential issues there if you're going to be a jerk about it. And the thief archetype and the thieves as presented in The Longing Ring, the first Earthdawn novel, and the thief as presented by Garlthik and J'role in that is a very antisocial discipline.
Yes.
And understandably, like, it's understandable how the magic allows the thief to do that within that framework, but the essay on the thief that was sort of then kind of brought in later with the Adept's Way presents a different approach, and one that is a lot more conducive to working together as a group. And I think a big part of how you make the thief successful is to basically work out the metaphor, work out the definition, the objective of thievery, that does not end up having them be jerks to other people.
Selfishness is one thing. Being a jerk is something else.
Well, self-reliance is one thing. Selfishness is something else.
True. So we make the distinction between all three.
Is that ultimately there do come times where the thief does need to act alone. Yeah. And things like that. And that they ultimately can, do have to rely on their own abilities a little bit more than they would. And that can make them a interesting interesting character to play when it comes into the stereotypical adventuring group, if that's the kind of thing that you're into.
Yeah.
But just it's
fair. No, so we had to keep the archetype of the thief in this fantasy setting, because if you didn't have a thief here, it'd feel a little bit empty. Well, especially of a setting.
Yeah, well, I mean, not even that necessarily in the setting, but also as Earthdawn is a response to Dungeons and Dragons style fantasy and the archetypes, the core, fighter, magic user, cleric, although Earthdawn really kind of does away with clerics, but the fighter, magic user, thief triad of things, and especially if you're going to be having a game that at least one aspect of play is the exploration of ruins with like traps and treasure and stuff.
Yes.
The thief being the one who detects and disarms and
leads everybody through the perilousness.
It is kind of important, unless you're going to give that to other disciplines, and that was shared a little bit with Scout once they were introduced later in first edition's run.
Yes.
But, if you don't, you need to have that somewhere in the, to have that style of play be possible.
Yeah. I use my thief more as a retrieval specialist than just a pickpocket.
Not a thief, a treasure hunter.
Yes.
To quote Final Fantasy VI.
Exactly. Mine is more of he stole from you, I'll go get it back for you. I don't necessarily need to keep all the treasure for me. I just want to make sure that the lesson is learned from them that they can't just take from you either. So I mean, my personal philosophy for my thief is that.
I will accept a finder's fee.
Of course. I'm okay with a finder's fee. Or any gift you happen to want to bestow upon me after the fact. Yes. So, so yeah, that overall, and the important attributes, of course, for the thief, now that we're getting into them a little bit deeper, is charisma. Naturally, because you got to be able to, occasionally swindle verbally.
Right. But even more important, especially when you start looking at their
talents,
like talent selection and stuff, are dexterity and perception.
Oh,
because
totally.
Because if you're going to be looking for traps, then you
need to notice them.
You need to be able to notice them. To be able to pick locks or move silently or climb walls, those are all things that are typically associated with
disarm that trap.
With agility and dexterity and fine motor control.
Absolutely.
So the charisma is important if you're going to be taking a slant that is more like con artist than cat burglar.
Yes.
To kind of lay out there's at least two branches.
Yes.
To go along with that. So
yes,
charisma can definitely be useful as well.
Yes, and we're not going to
charisma's listed first because it's alphabetical,
as they all are. And we're not going to mention the mount bank from 2nd edition because that was no.
I don't even remember much of anything about it. So that's fine.
It was.
No, we won't.
Nope. We won't.
I mean, I'm aware of it.
Yes,
I just don't remember any of the details.
Fair. So look at that. We're not bringing it up at all. So artisan skills for a thief: acting, which I think goes right along with what they are good at, and poetry.
Yep.
Just as nice little examples. Not necessarily have to adhere to them strongly.
Yeah. That there's any kind of acting seems pretty straightforward. Poetry, I think that was one that was listed on a suggestion from an earlier edition.
Yeah.
But again, like all artisan skills, pick something that seems appropriate for your character's style and or background.
Yeah. I just like the thief, since it's acting and poetry. If it's verbal poetry, it's limericks or something along those lines. I just like that those artisan skills for a thief don't necessarily leave a trace. Mm-hmm. There's not carving, so anything permanently attached. Right. There's not painting, things like that. So I just find those... Yeah. Maybe dancing if you want to.
That's a good point.
I could see that.
Yeah, dancing.
That's why, so as the point we made a little while ago on, I think, The Illusionist, how you describe how your talents work, this is how I look at the artisan skill for a thief. It's the only one I really paid a lot of attention to was the artisan skill for a thief shouldn't leave a trace. But that's just me.
Shouldn't leave physical traces, at least.
Yeah, sorry about that. Yeah. Emotional, sure, by all means. Sweet talk somebody. But the half magic ability is they may use half magic to build or bypass security measures intended to prevent theft and to recognize different types of locking mechanisms. So they get a half magic ability to go, oh, I know what kind of lock that is. Yeah. And maybe how to pick it or whatever.
Yeah. I don't know that the bypassing security measures, I would think that if it, maybe if it's not something that falls directly under lockpicking, like you wouldn't use half magic to pick locks because there is a dedicated talent to that.
Absolutely.
Again, looking at half magic as something that fills in the gaps that aren't already covered by existing abilities. They don't have the craftsman, there's nothing in their talent selection about crafting or making traps or locks or security measures. And so obviously that would make, that would be appropriate. But as far as bypassing them, only if there wasn't something already covered by one of their talents.
Yeah, it's more like an illusion, allusion to, here's maybe how to bypass this thing, maybe. Not saying they're going to do it, but they may have a knowledge of it.
This is a strong arm 5,000 safe. Oh, this is very impressive.
Exactly. So, let's get down to the free talent they get at first circle. Or do you want to go with, let's go with durability first.
No, the free... the free talent, danger sense.
Yeah, danger sense.
This is basically their sixth sense, their ability to have an additional chance to react when they have triggered a trap or some other kind of situation, kind of playing into the idea that the thief would be, especially when taking part in their larcenous activities, would want to be aware of what's going on, and be aware. So not only like getting an additional opportunity to potentially avoid the nasty effects of a trap, but also to be able to react more quickly in the event of an ambush or a guard coming upon them unexpectedly, something along those lines. It's a nice little talent. This sort of came from the idea that, that we had kind of defined up to this point that the basic structure for the discipline depends on like in a combination of durability and free talent and whatnot in terms of what their role is, or in terms of their having like the three categories where we've got like the more combat oriented types that have the higher durability and thus no free talent. We've got the magicians who have the lowest durability but get the spell matrices and have the spell magic that kind of goes along with that. And then kind of the specialists.
The middle ground of everybody.
The middle ground, the specialists. I don't want to be dismissive of it, but that's where your troubadour, your scout, your archer, your thief, your weaponsmith, that are specialists in a particular area. They get a durability 5, they get the middle of the road, and they all get a free talent. And, basically looking at something that should be part of the thief kit and picking something that is flavorful, but not necessarily overpowered, and danger sense, kind of all the stuff that we're going to be talking about here, I think is the one that best fills that role.
I agree entirely. It's something that, not that I have a life of crime, not that I have a rap sheet in my background, but I have seen a lot of heist movies or TV shows based upon a thief, and they're a very popular culture thing to do, and I've always been intrigued by those types of characters, and danger sense seems to be one of those. They have an innate sense of, this is about the time where somebody catches me, or this is about the time something goes wrong, or this is about the time where I should be doing something else and not what I'm doing currently, and so I need to move on to the next. And so they develop that sense of the situation they're in and what exactly should be taking place next. And so I think danger sense is the, hey, by the way.
Yeah.
So that's just me.
No,
but I like danger sense being their free talent. That's a good one. So durability 5, we already explained that. And they also get, at first circle, a karma ability. They get to spend karma on any charisma-based test when they're attempting to deceive someone.
Yes.
So right down that road of the con artist right off the bat.
Yeah.
Hey, look over there.
That's a yeah. I mean, whether attempting to distract somebody from something or to lie, to conceal a lie
convincingly. Yeah.
Convincing someone, fast talking, that sort of thing. Basically, it's basically similar to the karma point on interaction tests that you get with troubadours and swordmasters, among others. I think Weaponsmith gets it as well. But the style of the thief does not lend itself to really. It doesn't make sense for that magic to apply to making an impression. Well, unless that impression that you are making is deceptive in nature, like that basically that their ability to use the magic that way kind of relies on the fact that they are being thiefy.
That's not a word, is it?
No, it's not.
Okay. Just making sure we're even on that one. Okay, so back to the starting with the discipline talents. And again, most of them are alphabetical, but you have to throw awareness into a thief. Without a doubt.
I mean, awareness, awareness is the sort of perception booster that allows anybody that has it to be able to notice things more effectively, and making that a talent with the idea that the thief, as we kind of go through things here, that that not just the sort of cat burglar being able to detect traps, but if they're going to be the one sort of running point in a kaer delve is going to be searching for traps and looking for dangerous things like that, you're going to want to have that awareness, that ability to notice things and see things that are, out of whack, hidden compartments, just anything. It's a no-brainer for many.
Yeah.
Like, awareness is an ability that is useful for anybody.
Yes.
And I generally recommend, if for some reason you don't take it as a talent for your character, either because it's not available. I think it's available as an option for a lot of them. If you don't take it as a talent, it's worth investing a rank or two in skills to try and get your awareness up to 2d6. Just to have that added, that added benefit. The value of that overall does depend a little bit on how the game master is running things in terms of noticing stuff.
Yeah.
We will set aside the whole pixel hunt clue mystery thing that can run into problems when you rely too much on awareness tests. But for the thief, when you're going to be searching for traps and whatnot, it is a must-have.
Or finding your mark in a crowd to pickpocket.
Yeah.
I could use it that way. That's, at least I would try. So, lockpicking.
Obviously. We're going to see that that a lot of the iconic thief abilities from Dungeons and Dragons are in the thief's kit in Earthdawn because they are expected.
Yeah.
Like, this is the thief, this is the archetype.
They're universal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Lockpicking, you're going to want to get through locked doors or open locked chests or anything along those lines.
That's what a thief does.
Yeah.
So, yeah, absolutely. And again, picking pockets.
It's another one that is a no-brainer. Picking pockets, I would also allow to do any kind of sneaky sleight of hand in terms of, not necessarily just lifting somebody's purse, but if you were to no, because that's covered by a talent we'll talk about later.
Sorry. Oh, right. Yeah.
But if you were doing a shell game or something like that,
yes.
Any time where you are manipulating objects to change their relative position as opposed to just hiding them.
Yes. Fair. So I can see that. But yeah, awareness, lockpicking, picking pockets. If it's not the thief, I don't know what it is. And then stealthy stride, which is just
the move silently.
Moving silently.
It does. It's a more general sort of stealth talent. And again, part of the standard kit of fantasy gaming thieves is the ability to sneak around and not be heard. Because obviously if you're breaking into somebody's house or castle or vault or whatever.
Yes.
It helps to not draw the attention of patrolling guards because you are...
Or anyone.
Noisy.
Yes. I still love the fact that in Earthdawn, lockpicking does not require lockpicks because it's magically based, and so you get
that is true. We did not mention that because it is magical. Lockpicking does not require the traditional thieves' tools. Is that the thief basically is magically, telekinetically manipulating the tumblers of the lock, the mechanisms of the lock, and therefore it can also unlock magical locks that standard lockpicks cannot. And the picking pockets also includes a little bit of basic levitation magic to kind of help move things along. There are those little little aspects to it as well.
So yeah, take that, D&D thief. I'll take an Earthdawn thief any day of the week. And then of course last, because you cannot avoid it, thread weaving for first circle.
Yep. Which obviously, it is everybody gets thread weaving at first circle.
Yeah.
So we don't need to really discuss anything with that.
No, so you can start tying threads at first circle if you want to, after you get stuff. So second circle, they actually get the +1 to physical defense because they're a thief and they're squishy.
High dexterity. It makes sense that they would get bonuses to their ability to not get hit.
Totally. But then their second circle talent, Disarm Trap.
Yep, Disarm Trap. This basically, so awareness, there is not a separate detect or find trap ability.
Anymore.
It is rolled into awareness, but awareness on its own does not usually allow someone to detect traps. They need to have the Disarm Trap talent to sort of unlock that, to kind of protect the niche of the thief. Although, to be quite honest, even if you allow anybody with awareness to detect trap, they don't have the ability really to do much of anything about it.
Hey, I found that.
I found the trap, and unless you're unless because of the group's composition or something, they don't have anybody that is able to handle traps like that. You might be going with a style where you kind of describe the situation and present that as a puzzle, perhaps for the players to solve in terms of how to bypass this security measure. But generally speaking, Disarm Trap. That's the okay. You've got the ability to see them. Now you know how to deal with them.
Yep, I'm playing a 4th edition scout, and he loves his awareness. It's great. And then for a couple of circles, I didn't get a Disarm Trap, so now I'm the de facto, yeah, I can do that. But that's what it had to be. We didn't have a thief, so had to go that route. So 3rd circle, the adept may spend a karma on any initiative.
Mm-hmm. Again, getting into the agility and speed and wish to avoid danger that typically kind of goes along with the idea of a thief. Being able to spend initiative, spend karma on initiative where they don't get the initiative enhancing talents like a warrior does. Mm-hmm. Still allows them to act more quickly in combat.
Absolutely. And then, of course, they get the 3rd circle talent, Haggle.
Yep. Haggle also kind of rolls in the ability to, like if you're fencing, if you're fencing stolen goods, negotiating the price for those. That's its primary intended focus. Like there isn't a separate like black market sales thing. Again, trying to not, have a huge variety of talents when they are more or less doing the same thing. So Haggle, will work on normal stuff as well. But it's kind of along the idea that, okay, you're going to be negotiating prices with your fence if you're trying to unload stuff.
Yeah. Note for players, it is really hard to haggle with someone who says it belongs in a museum. Just going to point that out. Moving on to 4th circle, they get the +1 to social defense because that makes sense. They're partially a social character more than most.
Yeah. And being a discipline that is focused in some respects on deception, the social defense gives them, a greater ability to resist being fooled or conned. And so that kind of plays into that theme for them.
Yeah, it's the arms race, as we've said before. Mm-hmm. I can swindle you, you're not going to swindle me. But they get, of course, I think the discipline talent we were going to talk about, conceal objects.
Yes, this is the one that allows you to palm a coin or have a dagger hidden up your sleeve or something along those lines. This is the case where where you are hiding an object on your person and cloaking it with a little bit of illusion magic as the thief to make it more difficult to spot. This would sort of be combined with picking pockets, use the pickpocket to successfully remove the purse from the merchant and conceal object so that when they stop you, it is in fact harder for them to locate it when they're searching you for it.
Also good to hide cards up your sleeve.
Cards up your sleeve. Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of potential uses for that beyond the standard, I'm going to have a couple of daggers secreted on my person. But yeah, those are the...
Yeah, it's good to get creative with those. Absolutely. Yeah. So then we go to the talent options because those it's a nice set 1st through 4th circle, a good foundation to build on. Here's where you get to add your own little flavor to it. So your options are avoid blow because again, after you steal things, people are going to want to hit you.
Yeah. And again, with the desire to not get hurt, they're not really frontline combatants. So being able to not get hit is a good thing. And again, playing into the ideas of agility and speed and stuff like that. Yeah. It's, one of those that would, in a 1st edition design paradigm where the talents are assigned at each circle, would absolutely be within their early run.
Totally.
But this is a case where, we wanted to, the thief design is really slanted towards the iconic, like, trap finding, treasure hunter, larcenous character, because if you don't have those lockpicking, picking pockets, disarm trap kind of abilities in their core that all thieves have, they stop feeling like a thief and start feeling more like a scout, which is fine. And that's part of the different, like, scouts are great, but that's kind of the differentiation between them.
Yes. Agreed. Moving on to climbing.
Climbing, again, another of those iconic thief abilities that should be available to them early on, but is one, not necessarily something that would apply to windling thieves. They might not need climbing. And also, the slots are taken up with other stuff right now, so it's an option.
Exactly. I made very good use of my climbing ability. I don't pay for hotel rooms. I don't pay for taverns when I am playing my thief. I go around the back way, and if there's a second story, I climb in the second story and I get my room for free.
I
always make sure the room is empty first.
That could potentially run into problems. The other thing is that climbing is also available fairly readily as a skill. And unless you're going to be doing some super hardcore like mountaineering or like sheer cliff face stuff, with the high dexterity of a thief, you may not need to have your climbing super high in order to be able to do everything that you want to do with it. Especially once you start getting into the bonuses that can come from using ropes and grapples and things like that. Mm-hmm. So having climbing as a discipline talent is not something that is strictly necessary.
No, but if you want to be good at it, get it as a talent and use karma on it.
Well, use karma on it and you can raise it more quickly and, I mean,
cheaper, yeah. So, by all means, climbing should be there. First impression, again, social talent.
Good social talent for the con artist thief, someone who is perhaps going to be a bit more of the like con artist type, which I just said.
Yes. It's okay.
And using it to
the swindler.
Make Game Master characters favorably inclined towards you, which means it's more likely that they will be not on guard and you will be able to take advantage of them in some way or other.
Myriad of ways.
Because that is definitely something that for that style of thief would be very useful.
Yes. Great leap.
If you're scampering across rooftops in the dead of night,
I was just thinking the same thing.
You might need to be able to cross a gap in some way, and so it is something that it's a good playing into sort of the idea of movement and speed is certainly something that could apply to a cat burglar type thief. So definitely worthwhile having in their kit.
I absolutely agree. I can just picture the iconic scene of the thief against the dead of night, the moon is in the background, running across the rooftops, and
the ninja
needing to jump here and jump there. Yes, Great Leap needs to be there, but again, not core.
Yeah, not strictly required, but definitely useful.
Got to have it there. Melee weapons or melee weapons.
Yes, the one thing that
you got to be able to fight a little bit.
The one thing that you may have noticed as we went through the discipline talents for the first 4 circles, they have no attack talents.
Combat.
They have no attack talents, and so melee weapons is given as an option. Generally speaking, you will get at least, depending on the style of thief that you're going with, you will take at least one of I would presume one of the attack skills. Talents, one of the combat skills. Yeah. But it's not strictly required. I don't think. I mean, it's very useful in conjunction with other stuff. And if you are going to be an adventuring type thief, that's going to be more of a kaer delver and explorer in that regard. Stealing secrets or treasure from forgotten ruins.
Yeah.
You are likely to run into things that you will need to stab with a sword or dagger or something like that. And so having melee weapons, I mean, again, they're available as options. They are also available fairly easily as skills if you're going with a style that really wants to pick up stuff in other ways. But it is something that can potentially come in handy.
Well, since you're not a frontline fighter and you might accidentally or on purpose, I don't know, pickpocket the wrong person and they happen to be a warrior or a sky raider and be angry, why would you not want to spend karma on your ability to fight back?
Right. Well, I mean, at that point, it's like, am I really better served by standing toe to toe with this angry troll sky raider who will turn me into meat paste, or should I be getting out of dodge?
Yes. Yeah, melee weapons, missile weapons, and throwing weapons are on the list.
Yes, all three of those are options. Basically, the idea being that you probably will only pick one of them to be your combat talent, and that will depend on your style and what you expect to be doing. If you've got a smaller group that doesn't have quite as much sort of frontline melee types, you will probably want to go with melee weapons. If you've got a group that is a little bit more bruiser heavy, going with missile or throwing weapons to be more of a ranged character will work just as well. You don't have all of the tricks that an archer does, but those can still be useful.
Yes, absolutely. Bringing us to the whole running away point, sprint.
Yes. Which basically allows the character to move more quickly. You know,
you might need to, since they
you might need to.
red-handed.
If you can outrun them, you do not need to fight them. So
Yes.
yeah, it's pretty straightforward. You take a little bit of strain. Sprint is not quite as egregiously
overpowering.
well. In just kind of thinking about the movement rates back from first edition, Sprint made things ridiculously, like in terms of how much terrain, say an elf with a high dexterity and sprint could cover, was ridiculous.
Yeah, you became the Flash.
Yeah, it is still really useful to have if you're looking at being able to cross distances. It increases your movement rate. So it does, I think, and I could be wrong on this, I think it does work nicely in conjunction with Great Leap, which is limited by your movement rate. So if you can increase your movement rate through sprint, then you can take advantage of the higher results that you might get on a Great Leap. So if you are going with a sort of nimble, acrobatic cat burglar type, sprint is a really great complement to go along with that.
Yeah. It doesn't say you can't use it at all, so by all means.
Yeah, I mean, it depends on specifically what the wording on sprint is. I think that if it increases your movement rate, then it stacks with
it increases your movement rate by rank in sprint.
Yeah.
That's it.
So it does.
Yeah, that's a Great Leap.
Yeah.
No problem. It's like one sentence long. It's beautiful. So, and then last...
Well...
No, sorry. It's two more. Sorry.
Yep.
The other one's a short word. Surprise Strike.
Surprise Strike. This is
thief backstab
Yep,
type
this
thing.
is the sort of variant on the backstab ability. Again, it's not core because it is not required that a thief be a combat type. But if you are going to be one of those that is going to be getting into combat, which, let's admit,
happens a lot.
Happens frequently enough. Surprise Strike allows the thief in certain circumstances to greatly increase their damage. Mm-hmm. And it works equally with melee weapons as it does with ranged attacks. So it stacks, whatever style of combat you are going to kind of go with. It works nicely with any of them. It works really nicely if you've got somebody in your group that has the distract talent. Because it's basically Surprise Strike triggers on anybody that is blindsided, among other things. But Distract basically imposes a blindside penalty on the target of it. So it works really well in that regard. And
your Surprise Strike is your damage, not. It's
basically
the title, but it's not the actual strike you're doing.
It is similar to Claw Shape, in that it basically effectively is adding your rank in Surprise Strike to the damage for the weapon. Which is your strength plus the weapon step plus your surprise strike rank. So it is a damage adder in that regard.
It's a nice boost.
Yep. And because it basically replaces strength plus rank for strength in your damage calculation, it allows you to spend karma on those damage tests as well.
Yes.
So
awesome.
Yep. The third novice tier talent that allows karma on damage. Claw Shape and Charge being the other two.
There you go. Look at that. So the initiate talent options, Taunt.
Taunt, yes, which can work nicely with Escape, because it imposes penalties on, the target, if successful. So it can work nicely, especially if you're going with a con artist higher charisma approach on the thief. Since Taunt is charisma based, it can be very handy. Mm-hmm. It can be a nice, again, if you've got a group, say, that doesn't have a Swordmaster or a Troubadour, both of whom also have Taunt in their sort of
lexicon,
their kit, it can be useful to apply penalties to targets to make them easier to take down. So yeah, it's a useful, potentially useful ability depending on how you're going to be styling your approach.
Yeah, I always remember Robin Hood, the Prince of Thieves movie with Kevin Costner. Mm-hmm. Little John's son actually always had a line to say before he stole something. So it's just one of those little taunt things just to throw the victim off guard and run off. So I can always pull thief out of somewhere. If you're going to be going with a sort of famous cat burglar getting away with stuff, taunting the authorities as you escape over the rooftops yet again. Absolutely.
That can, you talk about not leaving a trace, but that, if you're going to be going with that kind of style that, you can go, that allows a style that leans potentially towards a more almost swashbuckly swordmaster type.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Absolutely. Because sometimes some thieves just can't help themselves and got to get a line in before they depart the scene. So I can honestly see that. So it's a solid first 4 circles. If you don't like any of the discipline talents, like say Haggle,
but
would be the only one I could maybe swap one out.
Yeah, but even then, like I kind of mentioned, it's for
fencing goods.
Yeah, there's that. But it also just in general, if because of the style of play or whatever that you might be having, where that's not coming into play, then look at using the all talents to advance option and have your optional talent at 3rd circle be the one that you raise to qualify to advance.
Exactly.
Just because that's really what that rule is there for.
Fair. So then we got moving on to 5th circle, and a lot of things happen for a lot of disciplines at 5th circle.
Yep. You enter the journeyman tier, and so you get a nice little bump in your capabilities.
Shadow Cloak. This is new.
I think it might actually be an ability that was available at a higher circle in earlier editions, but was scaled down slightly and brought down in circle because it is so flavorful and useful that we want people to get access to it earlier.
Yeah.
I seem to recall that it was like a circle 11 or something like that in 1st edition.
Fair.
I'd have to grab my 1st edition companion to check, and I've got a whole bunch of stuff blocking it right now. So, but
mine too.
Yeah, it basically you spend 2 strain, and it increases the difficulty number for any test made to detect you by 2. So it basically, like the result of your stealthy stride test, for example, which sets the difficulty for people to hear you or notice you moving. It adds that. If you are otherwise hiding, any test made, the perception test to notice pickpocketing, any kind of magic that might be used to scry or detect you in some way, it would affect the difficulty for that to work.
Like if a scout's tracking your footsteps,
or an archer using using direction arrow, mystic pursuit.
Yes.
Anything it bumps the difficulty for any of those. So that's potentially useful. And it lasts for a number of minutes equal to your thief weaving. So it's something that maybe long term isn't great for like evading pursuit, but definitely in terms of a short term kind of situation, can come in handy. Give you enough of a head start.
And I believe that's the first ability that ties into thread weaving that we've come across.
No, because Elementalist, who we talked about a week or 2 ago, the Fire and Ice ability is a thread weaving test to do that. I think, because it's an elementalism test to do those.
Okay.
So it just
didn't mention weaving was the only part that threw me off.
Right.
So yes. Okay. So we've only got 2 though out of 15. That's not
there might be others. I don't remember right off the top of my head.
We haven't come across them. We're not there yet.
So yeah, it's a nice little like flavor thing to make them harder to detect, which is right up their alley.
It so is. That actually adds the flavor text of making the thief harder to catch and harder to notice and harder to find. So yes. Then they also get at 5th circle a karma ability. They can spend a karma on attack tests against a surprised or blindsided opponent. Yep.
This kind of plays into the whole surprise strike, backstab kind of situation. One of the things with Conceal Object is that it is possible with Conceal Object to regain surprise, which is normally a difficult thing to do in a combat encounter.
Totally.
And so, I mean, if you picked up melee weapons or any of the other attack abilities as a talent, you can spend a karma on that, but this basically allows you to, as a discipline ability, spend an additional point of karma if the target meets one of those conditions.
Yeah. And that's before we even get to the discipline talent. So they've got the Shadow Cloak and the karma ability, and at 5th circle you also get Engaging Banter.
Engaging Banter, kind of more along the lines of a con artist or social ability that allows them to distract the target or the mark.
I'm going to talk to the city guards while everyone else sneaks over the wall.
Or there's that, but for each success on the Engaging Banter, the target suffers a -2 penalty to all perception tests made to notice anything but the adept. Which could potentially play into other things that the thief might be doing in the course of the interaction.
Totally. So very wonderful little fifth circle bumps there, all three of them. Sixth circle, they get to move up to another bonus on the physical defense because they still need one. You still maybe get caught. But my all-time favorite name of any talent, Slough Blame.
Yep. This is must-have for a thief. Basically allows them to say, no, I didn't do it, he did it, and use the distraction there to get away.
Which can also be built upon the engaging banter of before.
Potentially.
Yes. That's why that one comes first. The Slough Blame is the sixth, because the Slough Blame is awesome. So,
Definitely.
Can't say enough about that one. Seventh circle, another bonus to the initiative. So at this moment, they've got 2 bonuses to initiative and 2 bonuses to physical defense and bonus to social defense by the time they get to seventh circle. And fast hand.
Yeah.
Which my thief has used to great effect.
Yeah, this is sort of a boosted pickpockets. Picking pockets basically allows you to take something from one place and put it onto your person. Fast hand kind of bumps that up to you can do multiple objects and kind of shift them around into different locations. This is the one really that would be a little bit more inclined towards the classic 3-card Monty or shell game kind of situation. Yeah, this is...
I always called it snag. I'm going to take that and run. So that's just me. And then eighth circle, another bonus to physical defense. So at this point, they've got a
total of +3. Yeah.
And that is what they need because, again, thieves are squishy and occasionally they get caught and occasionally want to get smacked on. So, no. But they get false sight.
Yes. Now this, because several of the thieves' abilities are illusions or have the illusion keyword, it basically allows them to further enhance the illusory capabilities of those things, making them more difficult to sense or otherwise see through them. Like Fast Hand, for example, is an illusion. It has the illusion keyword, and so using false sight in conjunction with that would make it even harder for somebody to have noticed what was done. Stealthy Stride is, I believe, likewise. Let me double check.
Sounds right.
Stealthy Stride is also an illusion, or has the illusion keyword, and so false sight allows that to be enhanced as well. So yeah, definitely, like, that is a talent that basically boosts some of the thieves' prime abilities to make them even more effective, and then that would stack in addition potentially with Shadow Cloak. So basically, looking at where you've got people who would be trying to find or spot the thief would have awareness or some other kind of magical ability. Like, let's give thieves the tools to kind of help combat that.
Exactly. So it's even better than the Notice Not spell. Just saying. So what more could you want? Really solid discipline talents for among all those. But we have options to toss on.
Even more. Yeah.
One per circle. So Blade Juggle, which is a nice little defensive
we talked about that not too long ago with the Troubadour. That's one that works nicely in conjunction with if you decide to go with throwing weapons or even melee weapons, if you're going to have like a bunch of daggers or small weapons concealed about your person.
Axes.
Axes. Okay.
Hawk hatchets. Let's go with hawk hatchets.
But the Blade Juggle basically allows you to increase your defensive capability and kind of counterattack if that defense is not breached.
Yeah. So very good to have.
It's a nice, if you're going to be going with sort of a more combat flavor, then that's one to potentially look at.
Yeah. And it's an option, not a discipline, but it's also just add some flavor to your story.
Yep.
If you're going to use that. Call Missile.
Call Missile, if you're going to be going with the throwing weapons route or the missile weapons route, because it works on any kind of ranged. I'm pretty sure it works on any ranged attack. So it's a good way, especially if you're looking at throwing weapons where you are not likely to have the stockpile of them that you would with, say, arrows.
You get your special daggers back.
Yeah, get your Call Missile allows you to bring them back. So that could definitely come in handy.
And also one more thing of not leaving a trace.
Yes. Yep.
And my favorite that I also used from my dwarf thief in Classic Edition is Deadfall.
Deadfall, yeah. This is a talent that is originally an illusionist talent, but it basically allows the adept to play dead using illusion magic. They, take a hit and go, oh, and dramatically, fall down and make it look...
Can you do that twice?
No, I'm not going to do that again. and make it look like they are dead. The one drawback with Deadfall is that it tends to only work when used against player characters once, and once they realize that they have been fooled by it, they tend to get overly thorough in making sure that enemies are not, going to be plaguing them again. The turnaround to this and the appropriate handle to this is that the nature of illusion magic basically makes the individual actually believe the situation. It is not merely, oh, they just look like they're dead, I'm going to stab them. The target, the effect, actually makes them believe it.
Yes.
And so, they may, they will be convinced that the person is actually finished off and go from there.
So, good to use. Disguise Self.
Another great sort of larcenous ability. Make yourself look like somebody else.
I didn't do it. I wasn't me at all. Clearly.
Impersonate a guard. Look like just another random passerby. If they're looking for somebody that is described as light-skinned with dark hair. Disguise Self, I think even allows... Is that the one that allows you to change your size to a certain extent as well? I don't remember.
Yes.
It does.
Mimic Voice doesn't do that.
Right. You can, change, you can't adjust more than 50%, but so you can make yourself look shorter and more rotund or taller and thin or whatever, and just completely look like somebody else entirely. Really great for trying to get away in certain circumstances.
Absolutely. Lovely illusion magic on that one. Mm-hmm. Graceful Exit.
We've talked about this one. If you are getting into a situation where, combat is breaking out, you can use Graceful Exit as a way of getting out of that without necessarily trading blows. The thief is probably, with their self-reliance, a little bit more likely to just do it on themselves rather than to do it on their allies, the way that you would with a troubadour, who also gets access to that. Mm-hmm. But
right after you taunt the crowd to fighting each other, you can gracefully exit and leave them to fight it out.
Another social ability that is particularly useful in larcenous circumstances.
Yes. And Mimic Voice, as we
very useful in conjunction with Disguise Self. Very useful
Disguise
in other
kinds
of
else.
Yep, and in other kinds of deceptive situations. If you're looking to, fool somebody or impersonate somebody, it can come in very handy.
And then we have Mystic Pursuit, which we mentioned earlier. But...
Mystic Pursuit. This is one that allows the thief, if they're going to be going with a route that's a little bit more in the direction similar to Scout, allows them to track a person or something along those lines. If they've got a connection to it, they can track it. Yeah.
Especially if they stole something and then someone stole from them, they can definitely follow their quarry.
Potentially,
again. So, it's very useful. Second weapon.
If you're going to be going with a more combat-oriented thief, especially if you're going to be taking melee weapons, second weapon can come in handy as an additional bit of combat enhancement.
Exactly. And then two more. Spot, Armor, Flaw.
Again,
goes along with the backstab ability.
Goes along with Surprise Strike. It does allow a little bit more combat potential if you're going to be going with a sort of ninja striker, high damage dealer concept for a thief. That is one that you'll want to pick up to enhance that.
Yeah, I've always loved Spot Armor.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about it with the Weaponsmith. We talked about it with a couple of other disciplines. There's not a whole lot more to add to it at this point.
No, it's a beautiful thing. And then True Sight.
True Sight basically allows the thief to be able to more easily pierce illusions.
Yeah. So very handy for the thief to be able to swindle somebody, but then...
Or to notice, like, if there is an illusion hiding a a secret door or a safe or trap or something along those lines could potentially, that if there's actually illusion magic that is involved, that True Sight would allow them to more effectively pierce those veils. Yeah,
it's the escalating arms race of the thief versus the security team.
So you've got a nice little selection of talent options there that can, depending on what you take in the style of game, can go in kind of a cat burglar or physical penetration specialist if you're going to be going like for a kaer delver or explorer. You've got some social stuff to go with the con artist. You've got some combat stuff that can help enhance that if you're going to be going along the like sort of high damage striker capacity that is sometimes expected out of Thieves. So there's some different things that you can go there. It is certainly possible to build a thief that does not have any real combat talent, doesn't have much in the way of combat talents to speak of, that is going to be focusing on other things.
Totally.
But thief, like ninja, spy, like there's a lot of archetypes that can kind of play into very nicely with the thief in terms of what they are trying to steal. I mean, a spy is basically a thief that is after information, looking to steal secrets, looking to steal knowledge from a place. And so information brokers and things like that are absolutely something that's in line with the thief.
I can imagine Garlthik One Eye has a huge information network of thieves.
Well, yeah, that's what the Force of the Eye is. That's his situation.
So yeah, as your a major example there. The game.
Thieves are a little bit more niche in terms of the games that they are appropriate for. Mm-hmm. You can make a thief sort of work as a. Again, they don't have quite the combat capability of a swordmaster, which is sort of the combat discipline that they are potentially closest to because of their charisma aspect, and there are a lot of social talents that kind of line up not too badly with the swordmaster. They don't quite have the social foo of the troubadour, but they've got some stuff that kind of works along those lines, but generally with the idea that they are going to be using it to con or deceive people.
Yes.
They kind of can do a little bit of backup ranged capability, but don't quite have the suite of tools that an archer does. But depending on the character's vision and approach, can work archer can work rather nicely as a secondary discipline for the thief, although the archer tends to be a bit more direct, whereas the thief tends to be a bit more sneaky and underhanded. It can be a bit tough for the philosophies of those to work well together. But if you're looking to go with like a ranged striker ability to take advantage of surprise strike and spot armor flaw and some of that stuff can work really nicely with the archer, especially if you're going to be looking at, for more like game master direction thing, a sort of assassin type where you are stealing lives, a ranged, an archer who would have eagle eye and far shot, I think is the name of it, that allows enhanced. At that point, you're starting to look at a like for pop culture inspiration. You're looking at somebody like Bullseye from comics,
Marvel Comics,
or Deadshot is another example.
Or even Hawkeye.
Hawkeye. Although Hawkeye, I would almost certainly put as an archer.
Oh,
first.
Totally.
But if you're looking for the more villainous types.
Yeah.
Then an
Bullseye
archer thief kind of combo would be nasty. A troubadour thief becomes at that point a really, really scary, like they can
social
stuff. I mean, if you're gonna be going with the with the troubadour as the primary, but going a little bit more kind of like the social foo con artist thing is right up the troubadour's alley if they are going to be a bit more bad guy in that respect, rather than the noble lore keeper and storyteller and whatnot. And then sort of the swordmaster would be something that would enhance the combat capability, giving some additional defensive and offensive capability in terms of the tools that they can bring to the table.
Yeah, I have two pieces of advice for anybody who wants to play a thief. One is there's a book I picked up called A Burglar's Guide to the City by an author named Jeff Minogue, Geoff. Manaugh, and it is literally how to look at architecture and see the weak points on how to get in there, get out of there, and so forth and so on. So it's a wonderful little thing to have. And this goes back, it's not just current modern times. It goes back centuries to tomb robbers and so forth. So that is a fantastic little book to play. My other one is Pop Culture References for Thieves. My favorite
movies.
show, heist movies, all kinds.
The Ocean's 11 series, Leverage.
Oh, Leverage. I was going to bring up Leverage. Leverage is four thieves working with the guy who becomes a thief eventually. But there's a con artist type thief. There's a hitter type thief. There's a tech type thief. There's the
hacker, yeah.
And then there's the pure, absolute break-in and entering thief. And if you want an archetype to play, go watch just
I mean, Leverage is a fantastic show.
It so is.
And the creator, John Rogers, is a gamer, actually. He's a game geek. But yeah, Leverage is a great, but like any kind of heist movie can be an inspiration that you can draw on to make a thief character, or for a game master. I think heist movies and the heist movie kind of structure is a really great place for game masters to draw inspiration for adventures as well.
Totally. I just saw Flawless with Michael Caine and Demi Moore. Mm-hmm. Another heist movie. Great flick.
Yeah.
So the number of people stealing things in pop culture, movies and TV shows is not unlimited.
Yeah.
It's a long list. But at least I had to mention those because even, Robin Hood stole from the rich and gave to the poor. That was the tagline. He was more of an archer. Mm-hmm. Somewhat swordmaster. Benevolent thief?
Depends. Yeah.
Yeah. So going back centuries, we've got, all that folklore.
Sure. I mean, you could even, again, I've seen Thieves modeled along the more Indiana Jones, like, adventure archaeologists kind of archetype in terms of being able to, like, puzzle out the mysteries and disarm traps and whatnot for kaers and things like that. I think, especially if you're going with a kaer delving type of scenario, or having your group is one that is going to be associated in some capacity, perhaps, with the exploratory force for Thrall, which does a lot to find like old kaers and whatnot, or similar things along those lines. A thief and the abilities that they can bring to bear can be super handy.
Oh, yes, they can. And it's always just nice because there's a lot of variety in the talents that we just listed out there that you can, as we said, there's 3 or 4 branches you can go off of, and then you can just intertwine some of those as well. Just to say, I like this guy. He's enough of a combatant. I'm good. Now I'll focus on the social aspects. Right. And you can branch out kind of all 3 trees and make sure that wide pyramid at the bottom is kind of secure as far as what you can and can't offer your entire party, depending on your party makeup. Yeah. So
and that's one of the things, like,
handy and essential.
Yeah, with all of these sort of approaches and the selections available, is to try and make it so that at least to some extent, most disciplines are suitable for, depending on how you build them, are suitable for a variety of play styles and games, depending on the type of adventures that are being run and, the play styles and things like that. Definitely worth looking into.
Yeah, it took me a long time to want to play a thief, and then I think I found my niche on him, and I love playing that character, so I can't wait to get back to playing him after a while. But at the moment, he's still in Classic Edition. I'll see what I can do with 4th. But I'm loving the way the 4th edition builds out the thieves there as well. There's not a lot of lost things from what I was able to do to what I can do now. So otherwise, any final thoughts?
No, I think we've covered everything kind of nicely there as far as the thief goes.
So enjoy making one and playing one. And a Windling Thief adds a whole level of complexity that most
the iconic, we talked about that a little bit when we talked about the Windlings of many episodes ago now. But the Windling Thief and the flight that goes along with that adds a whole other potential dimension of things. Though their small size does mean that they are not able to necessarily fly off with huge amounts of loot. But yes.
I'm trying to imagine an Obsidian thief, and I think that'll be a huge challenge. But
it's not strictly speaking. Strictly speaking, in 4th edition, it is not prohibited, but it is probably rare.
Yes,
in part just because thieves In first edition, it wasn't allowed. I think sort of basically under the justification that even magic can only do so much.
Yes.
I think it was a similar thing with trolls were not thieves, and there, so there was that, but there was also the part that Highland troll culture does not lend itself well to the mindset of being a solitary, sneaky, underhanded type.
Yes.
But again, we did away with the formal restrictions in fourth edition, although in the rules it does kind of go over and say these things are, by the default status of bar save, pretty rare, and it gives the explanation why. So no, thieves are cool. Definitely suited to certain types of games a little bit more than others, but absolutely worth playing, and I think a lot of fun, and definitely fill an expected niche in the classic fantasy gaming environment.
Totally. Other than that, folks, we've spent a good hour on this. Hour and change. We will let you go, and you can catch us next time. But otherwise, folks, thank you for listening. Thank you, Josh, for making the time. It is time for you to go steal your own legend.
Steal your legend. Good night, everybody.